Okay. So Sue Ellen says she's figured it out, and so, oh, there she is. All right. Welcome, everyone. Look at Sue's false background. She's in the basement.
Nice.
All right, so I guess we should start with approval of the agenda. Do we have any new items to add to the agenda?
Have is the supplementary material for the work plan discussion.
Yep.
So it's not a new topic, but material that didn't appear on the public agenda.
Okay.
And the
So shall we have a motion to approve the agenda? Don? All in favor? Done. All right. And the minutes, any comments or improvements on the minutes? All right, a motion to approve.
Moved.
Jeff? All in favor? Done. Okay.
You need a second.
Court? I didn't hear that.
Do you need a seconder? I'll second.
Okay, sorry, seconder. Thank you, Sue Ellen.
If
All right.
needed.
Yep. Do we have a delegation, Steph? From Kathy Buchanan? Oh, we can't hear you, Steph. At least I can't hear you.
can't hear me at all.
Yeah.
No,
Carla, no.
you're still quiet though.
Can't hear you now.
I haven't heard from, sorry, Steph, we can't hear you. You kind of cut in and out, but I haven't heard from Kathy, no.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do you want to pop me her email address, Carla, and I can just reach out to her and we can put her at the end possibly if that works?
Sure. I can send her an email right now.
Okay, thank you. We've
Shall we wait or just move on?
no, move on.
No, we'll move on.
So the next item of business is arising from the minutes, the 2023 work plan. And Carla, one of the things that's happened is we've had some input from Glenn and Dawn about the need for some focus on adaptation to climate change. Is that the way you understand it, Glenn?
Yeah, I just had the opportunity to go through all the background documents, and thanks Sue Ellen for sending a lot of those links. I've had the opportunity to go through them, and from my perspective, I think it just warrants a broader conversation to identify priorities. Again, not to get into the weeds prematurely, but just offering a perspective is that I think the work that we see and a lot of the dialogue we have, putting the park aside, the park aside was a bit of a necessary distraction, but coming full circle to sort of our overall mandate is a lot of the work that's been done on Bowen Island right now seems very focused on GHG or mitigation and emergency response. Certainly two important elements, but a big gap, even despite the reference documents that Sue Ellen has provided out. In my opinion, they still come quite short in really considering adaptation and community resilience.
I totally agree, Glenn. And so one of the things I am going to propose is that we form a subcommittee to look into the options for climate adaptation on Bowen. And I'm going to suggest a few names that I think have background. You, Glenn, would be one of the people I'd like to see on that subcommittee. And I think Jeff and McKaylee are people that have insight there. Are there other people that are interested, Sue Ellen?
Yeah, thanks. Before we jump into making a subcommittee, I'm just looking at the climate action strategy here. I know that's backwards for everybody.
Yep.
And the strategies to increase Bowen's resilience are protect built infrastructure, increase protection from drought, increase protection from wildfire, protect and enhance natural systems and carbon sequestration, protect and enhance regenerative agriculture practices. So some of these are happening through other groups. And I like the idea of a subcommittee to pull it together, and then maybe we can add it to the work plan once we've got something we want to call it, or a strategic action. Maybe?
Yep.
Could it be an addendum?
That's one option. I think the subcommittee, when they get into the weeds on this, will probably end up having some ideas on how best to join it to the existing climate action plan.
Yeah.
And Jeff, you've had your hand up. I'm afraid of what you're going to say.
Oh, please don't be afraid. I think it's a great idea. Starting some sort of separate committee to dive into this. I feel like it's going to get multi organization. It's going to quickly need to encompass other kind of organizations and groups. And I'm wondering if there's an appetite to make this committee broader membership. And maybe that's something that the committee can talk about, but this could be other staff reps, could be other organizations, and maybe there's some other, structure that could bring in some of the folks from some of the other, I'm thinking about some of the committees like Park Trails and Greenway and transportation in particular, but some of the other municipal staff as well too. And, maybe even some other organizations on Bowen that are outside of the BIM umbrella.
I like that, Jeff.
Yeah.
And so maybe what we'd call this group is the steering committee to start the process. I'd like to hear what Carla has to say. Carla, I'd hoped to talk to you about this before the meeting, but life just kept getting in the way. So.
Thanks, Will. That's no problem at all. And sorry, I'm having a lot of technical difficulties over here, but I think that's a great idea. I think that we did have that subcommittee meeting a little while back when we just had that offline meeting where we talked a little bit about what else we wanted to do. And I think that was kind of floated around that, we needed to bring other people in and other expertise in to kind of get more ideas and maybe expand the climate action plan a little bit. I think it's pretty well due for an update anyways. So, we don't have to make a whole new plan, but we can definitely update this one.
Yep.
So why don't maybe we could recommend to council that they direct staff to do a bigger workshop. Or yeah, how does that sound?
Sounds good. I see Sue Ellen's got her hand up.
My question is just, do we want to strike this smaller subcommittee to talk to Carla and craft a motion? I mean, or is it okay to move straight to a workshop kind of idea? It's a good idea. But anyway, I just wonder if we're doing a subcommittee, or are we suggesting to council that they do a workshop to pull some of these ideas together?
Thoughts?
Glenn's got his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I agree that maybe a subcommittee, you know, I guess maybe we could be prepared to kind of shepherd a process, whether it's a subcommittee or not. But I like the comment around the fact that I think what we're talking about recognizes a lot of crossover, perhaps with other committees. And there are a lot of committees, a lot of perspectives, perhaps in, not to be disrespectful, but maybe different levels of understanding of climate change and issues. A starting point might be to try to get together some kind of collaborative committee session with at least one representative of each, and more of a brainstorming, to start with a bit of an educational and brainstorming session about understanding of climate change. What are the kind of more of a brainstorming of the issue? You know, make sure there's a common understanding of the different streams, being mitigation and adaptation. Making sure we're all kind of clear in sharing perspectives of what we feel are some of the primary issues. Because when it comes from as a civil engineer and working with local government, the biggest thing that I see in the importance of adaptation is around maintaining acceptable levels of service. That requires all kinds of things, but it's not emergency response. Yes, emergency response is part of the resilience part. And the strategy, I think the climate adaptation strategy that you cited, Sue Ellen, is great. It's got a lot of, you know, items in there. I guess, and maybe it's more naivety than it is anything, but I guess at least myself, perhaps the other members are, I guess, not in the know about how some of those items are progressing, where they're at, what council has viewed as the priorities of them, how they fit into the capital program. So perhaps it's somewhat of an education process for ourselves and just getting up to speed on where council's at with that program.
Thanks, Glenn. I like your ideas there. I see Sue Ellen's got her hand up. Don had his hand up before. Is it down now, Don?
No, I was just I wasn't sure whether a subcommittee is the best idea or whether it is a workshop. I just know that in most of the council meetings that I've watched, staff is incredibly swamped with work. And I wonder if a workshop is premature, and that at least having a foundational meeting with the volunteers from other committees or other groups might be a good first step, and then to assess whether we can move to a workshop with the help of the Muni.
Okay, thanks, Don. Sue Ellen?
Yeah, thank you. I kind of agree with Don. I like what I'm hearing from Glenn, because of course he's got tons of experience with this. But also, council is fairly new as a team, and we have different background. We haven't, you know, it's not like we've designed the climate action strategy. This was from 2020, and it was created with the help of the Community Energy Association staff, with our staff and input. And, you know, lots of committee members too are fairly new, and they might not know that we have this community wildfire plan, or that we have all these different elements. I really like the idea of bringing it all together, but I'm not sure exactly what staff would feel is the most efficient way to do that and the best timing for it, considering all the things that staff have to do. And this work is only a small part of Carla's hours, I think. Anyway, I'm just sort of agreeing with Dawn. It would be good to flesh out this concept of bringing all these groups, because some of them are community groups too, right? Like Bowen Island Resilient Food Society and that kind of thing. And so I support the idea, but I just I don't want to bring something that's let's think about it first before we propose something to council that we really recommend.
So I guess to follow up, Sue Ellen, would you be suggesting that the idea of a subcommittee to pull together some ideas and then even identify the community groups that are stakeholders in the process and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and also give staff or Carla a chance, or other staff a chance to put together a list of what are all the actions happening now, as Glenn mentioned, that maybe they're not even called climate action, but that would be related, and that everybody would, it would be helpful for everybody, I think, to kind of have the big picture of what's, because we've come a long way in the past few years. And but are we where we need to be? So I think a subcommittee would be a good idea.
Yeah, and I will offer too that having my connection with Patrick, I am aware of certain initiatives that are taking place. So I think there are steps moving forward. It's just, I guess when I put on my hat of my role on this committee, the pulling it all together and are we overall on the right track with the right priorities is, I think, where we just need to spend the time. I know there's aquifer studies going on. There's been a culvert assessment being done. There's what's the other one I was aware of? Asset management program. I know that there's some good things happening. So not to suggest that nothing's happening. Yeah.
Okay, so looks like, and Carla, do you have any comments? Is this the kind of thing that would be helpful for you?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think a subcommittee should work, and it's a good way to get the thoughts in order and figure out exactly what you guys want to do. I was going to mention, so we do have there's the climate action plan was prepared mostly just by the Environment and Climate Action Committee in 2019, right? And then it was adopted in 2020. And it's this community energy and emissions plan that was that we worked on with this Community Energy Association. So we have both those plans. So, we might want to take a look at both of them and maybe, try to make them one. I think the climate action plan was really meant to, really get to the kind of the biggest actions that we could do, and the ones that we thought we were capable of doing, and it was very Bowen centric rather than a little bit, the CEA one is similar to those for many other small communities. They work with many small communities on those. So the climate action plan is very Bowen centric. So yeah, subcommittee sounds good.
Okay.
So do I have two actions then? One is for a subcommittee to meet and create a work plan or suggestions. And the second one, I did, Councillor Fast mentioned staff putting together a list of actions. Carla, is that something that we'd want council direction for? Or
I think that's something that would take a significant amount of my time and other staff's time. And so, yeah, I think that would require like a council direction if that's something that we wanted to put together. So I don't know if the subcommittee wants to like
Okay.
start looking through the plans first, and
Okay.
you know, maybe they know a lot of this stuff, but I mean, I don't know if we wanted, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't, Sue Ellen here. I just
Yeah.
didn't mean to start identifying all the actions that were happening. I was more interested in identifying all the plans and resources
Oh.
that were out there. So, so whoever, if we do a workshop, or at least the subcommittee, kind of had all the papers in front of me, and that, as you can see, even I'm confused. I thought there was one, not two. I was mixed up. So that would be good to get a clear view of the ground. Thank you.
I think that would be fine, Sue Ellen. I could definitely put together a list of all of the different plans, like anything I can think of that might have something to do with climate action, and try and
Mhm.
put together a list. I think that would be fine, just with links. Yeah.
Great. And Dawn, you had your hand up. Is it down again?
Yeah, it's down again, but no, I'm just worried about, I think we can meet and we can talk and discuss and plan and think about what we need to do or what we want to do without encumbering staff at this stage. I think it's premature. And I think if we, and you know, to Carla's point, I think if we start leaning on staff too heavily, we're gonna stop the process, and we don't want to do that. So I think the more work we can do independently and then bring it to Carla, I think that's the right approach to try and lighten, you know, their load.
Okay, thanks, Don. I think the only task that we were suggesting for Carla at the moment was to give us a list, and maybe how to get a hold of the current documents that and processes that are going on. So I think that's all we should be asking Carla at the moment.
Mhm.
Okay, so Steph,
So
you've
work then.
Glenn?
Yeah, just one final comment. I mean, might help. I'm kind of one that poked my nose and kind of raised this as a, you know, needing to pull it all together, and admittedly, perhaps needing to get a better assessment of where certain things are at. Carla, I don't know if you'd be available, and I'm willing to sit down with you for an hour or two and just, you know, get some insight on where certain things are at. I don't know to what extent you have knowledge of everything that's going on there. But, you know, I could better assess kind of the bits and pieces, help identify where I think there might be some gaps, and then help structure. Because I think you're right. I think as we get people together, we need to be clear on sort of the framework of the discussion, and what the topics are that need to be discussed. And I think kind of a state of the nation on the components that we have to deal with, and where some of the gaps are or discussion points are, would be helpful.
Yeah, that sounds good, Glenn. You can send me an email, or just stop by my office if you want, and we can spend some time looking over stuff. And yeah, I hope that I'm pretty aware of everything that's going on in the organization, but I'm sure I miss things here and there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that sounds fine. Sure, let's do that.
How does everybody feel about that? Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. That will actually take a lot of weight off of Carla, of other people wanting to talk to her about things. We'll just talk to you.
Yeah. No, I totally appreciate Don's point as well, and in terms of swamping staff. I'm willing to put in the effort with working with
That's
Carla. Do that.
Okay, so it looks like we're planning to strike a subcommittee. I made suggestions of people who would be on it. I'm actually going to ask for volunteers. I'm not going to volunteer anybody.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, we've got
I'll be Glenn secretary.
Glenn, Don, Jeff, Michaela, are you available? Okay, I see.
I My dad's back in the hospital. They released him last week and after about 3 days at home. So it looks like my time's going to be spent elsewhere.
Totally understood. And so best wishes on that adventure. So
Thank you.
I'm willing to be part of that committee too. So do we
Okay, so
want
what
to
am I calling it? The act, it's got Don, Glenn, Jeff, and Will. And it's called the,
climate
When we call it.
adaptation subcommittee?
Research group.
task force? Wear a cape?
And the focus is adaptation. Is that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is the intent. This is not
And
partly
Bill-
climate
and Bill-
action, it's adaptation.
Yeah, I would say fill in any gaps that that become apparent too.
Yeah.
Does that how does that sound, Jeff?
Sounds good.
Working group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Climate
And,
adaptation working group.
And I think we'll Steph, would we go through you or just one of us set up a doodle poll to find when people are available?
You need to do it.
We'll do it. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll do it.
Sorry. I'll help you
No,
if you're in
no.
dire straits, but my
You
boss
have
doesn't
a
let
few
me.
other things going on, Steph. You might not have noticed that, but I have.
You can do it.
Okay. I'm noticing that we have Kathy Robertson.
We do. I'd just like to pause. She knows that we're in another discussion and it is my fault that she wasn't here when she was supposed to be, but I would like a recommendation regarding the work plan.
Yep.
Is that so? Did you want me to share? Did you want me to make that note we talked about, Will, or
Sure.
let me just share a screen on that. What are you seeing?
Links. Oh, there it is. We're seeing the work plan, top page.
Okay, so did you want me to add something about this? Just maybe put a climate action subcommittee work or something, or
Yeah, something.
here?
Climate activity, climate adaptation.
Working group.
We'll say strike it, and we've already done it, and it's only June.
Yeah.
Strike a climate adaptation working group to research, educate, formulate words, people.
We're looking for gaps in our current adaptation strategy.
Is that a gap analysis?
Yeah, that's a good.
Analysis on
Just-
existing climate
I don't
action strategies.
I don't think you need anything after gap analysis.
Okay. And then report back to the committee. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, and then sorry.
Never mind.
Carla had done a little, I'm not sure if it's a little or a lot or a medium amount of work on since our last meeting. Is this in yellow for committee discussion, Carla, or?
I think that those were in yellow. They were in yellow the last committee meeting. I actually
Oh.
haven't done any more work on this. So these
Oh, you
were
haven't.
things
Okay.
that were kind of added, newer things, and they were up for discussion. But I think we went through most of it, and
Yeah,
I think.
okay, and that's in your agenda
Discuss-
package as well.
Mhm.
So with that addition, can we call this, this is our generic front page or back page? Sorry if I'm giving you a stroke.
I have a question.
Okay,
I'm looking at the first row on the first page, and there's a number of places where it says 2022.
okay,
Is that because this is,
yeah,
I was,
it's updated, so,
okay.
Oh, May. Oh,
Yeah, I wonder.
Why don't you just change it to say, bring ideas to the June meeting? No, this is the June meeting. That's water conservation. What,
just get
Yeah,
rid of it.
know what it was. I was confused.
We don't have, I'm gonna say summer, fall. Okay.
Yeah.
How's that?
I think that's good because
Okay.
it'll come partly through the work of the working group.
Yeah.
We'll find out more.
Dawn leading here. So Dawn, you're the leader.
Hey, that's been on the, that's been there for over a year now.
Yeah, we put it there when you weren't around, yeah.
How's that been working out for you?
It's great. You know,
Okay.
do we still want to do it?
It's still on the list. It's just, I don't know. I like the idea of leaving it to ECAAC members rather than one
Yeah.
particular person, because we
Okay.
the point of having a committee is that we talk and
Well,
work together.
when we get to it, we can come back to that. Okay.
You know, I think this liaise with BIMTAC members section was relevant when Councillor Hawking was on both committees.
Yep.
And so no, I can attach BIMTAC minutes and we can see,
Okay,
or
that's
agenda
good.
packages, and we can see if
Yep.
those are.
I think we changed it to the chairs would be checking in with each other because of the fact that we didn't have David Hawking
Okay,
on the committee anymore. So that was an idea that came up
okay,
instead.
okay. This has been TAC and bike usage. Okay. Here's May 2023.
Can anybody else hear the robin singing on Zoom?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's quite soothing.
tell that thing to be quiet.
Ah,
I can turn my sound off.
No, I was just suggesting that there was a robin Zoom bombing the meeting.
so is September 2024 an okay time to work on these building efficiency goals?
This is just for this year, no?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I sometimes think the start of the school year is a new year. Sorry. Okay. Are you guys okay with this?
I did have a look through it and I'm
Okay.
happy with it and, yeah.
Okay.
I do have a comment,
Mhm.
if I may. And I guess I'm just pondering what Sue Ellen said. In taking my name off the water conservation or the water rain catchment, you know, there's actually something about assigning one of us to a particular project because it does give me, in this case, you know, focus to get something done, as opposed to putting it out to the committee so we can talk about it next year. So there may be a reason for why we should assign projects to a particular person or subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, to go at least do the legwork and bring it back to this group to say, here's what I've done, or here's what we know. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to put me on that project, I will go to work on it.
Okay, I see Sue Ellen's hand is up, but Rebecca's hand has been up for a long time. So I'm going to go to Rebecca first.
Thanks. Not that long, well, but thank you. I can't recall how frequently we review this work plan throughout the year, but it just occurs to me that in the strategic action column, there's a lot of references to the climate action strategy. And so the work of this new subcommittee, as it's identifying potential gaps in the strategy or elsewhere, we may want to bring this back to determine whether or not we want to adjust the work plan at all for 2023 based on the work of the subcommittee. And it also occurred to me that as we're reviewing all of these other reports and that are related to the climate action strategy or kind of indicate work that's going on in the municipality that's related, there may be an opportunity to kind of flesh out that column a little bit too, to talk about where the work of the committee supports other initiatives or other reports that we already have, that are already in existence. So I guess what I'm advocating for is kind of a living document.
Yep.
Agreed.
Great stuff, Rebecca. Thank you. Sue Ellen.
Thanks, Chair. I two comments. One is the grant subcommittee on page 4 was on the screen there a moment ago. Sorry. I think Rebecca was on that. We had our subcommittee meeting, and right?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe we could add Rebecca there. And I take Dawn's point, and I really like what Rebecca was saying too, because my question coming in as a new counselor is, where's the environment? It's this is all climate action strategy. That's partly why I was confused about the SEEP plan, the climate. Well, I don't even remember what the words stand for. Anyway, there's I like the idea of revisiting the plan later, and if this work takes up all our time, which it may very well, that's fine, because we sure need to work on it. And but I like the idea of revisiting it if we need to make changes after we've had a few, after we've done some work.
And I think one of the things we could do in that revisiting is start assigning people to stick handle certain tasks, so we don't have to do it right now.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, McKaylee, I might have seen you hold up your hand like that, or were you just resting your elbow? Okay. So are we ready to recommend that we adopt the work plan as it is? Any more discussion? Any problems? I'm seeing no response to that question. So Sue Ellen does.
Yeah, I just wondered if we might want to add a note to council that we may revisit it and ask them, I don't want to call it an interim plan, but maybe just a heads up that that we may revisit it. Or maybe we just want to leave it, because who knows what'll happen, and then we can just get on with things. Yeah. So I withdraw that.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'm just looking for the recommendation that Steph has
Put it in
made.
the chat.
Okay.
Did I speak up, Don? I saw you waving.
No, I was actually going to endorse what Sue Ellen was saying, and then she retracted it. So I think that, like, I think our plan's outdated. I think it's an old plan, and it's kind of held together with glue and paper clips. And it needs to be, but I think if we put the wording in there that says it's a work in progress, I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'll say, or if people are okay with that, what's in the chat. as presented and amended at its June 8th meeting, and that ECAAC resolves to revisit and refine,
Good words, yeah.
revisit,
Or update is required.
refine, and update as required.
Where update is required? Would that be better?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Where updates are required.
Sure.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Do we
Dawn,
want to, sorry, do we want to specifically call out the new working group in that? So basically that they'll be updated, but not just anybody, it'll be specific to what that group finds?
So where updates are required as specified by the Climate Adaptation Working Group.
nicely done, Steph.
Yeah.
Have you done this before?
You guys do science.
Although that wouldn't be the only thing that this could be updated for. I feel like that's too specific.
Okay.
It could be in many different areas.
Yeah, and if I may, I think Steph did add the words strike a climate adaptation working group to the document. She's going to tuck it in there.
Yes, actually, yeah, it's in the
Yeah,
document. That's right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So
So again, are we ready to vote on this Steph's wording?
do you have a mover, Dawn? Are you moving it?
Sure.
Okay. And
And
how
a
about
second. McKaylee, all in favor?
Aye.
Anonymous, unanimous.
Hi.
We're not anonymous.
Anonymously.
All right, everyone. So shall we talk to Kathy now?
Kathy?
I'm
Hi, Kathy.
here. Hello. I finally get to see Macau. We've emailed so many times. Hello.
Haley?
McKaylee.
Kaylee. See, I don't even know.
Yep.
Well, that was interesting, dropping into that little group.
I was expecting Buchanan. Hi, Kathy Robertson.
Hello, Sue. I just have a little aside, which isn't my reason for being in here. A couple of years ago, we made a water conservation film. We went around and made a film on all the people who collect water. And it's on the Garden Club's website under resources, if you want to look at that. I would love to see all new builds have water collection. But anyway, that's an aside. So the reason I am here is because I was trying to see if I can show you this. Hang on. Yes, there is a sign up in Salmon Arm area when they close trails to dogs during nesting season. As you can see, it's just a paper, just a plastic banner. It's got a beginning and an end date. Really simple. It's kind of like the gorilla signage around the snakes crossing the road, which I thought were just fantastic. And I heard that, the whole plan for Grafton Lake isn't organized yet. And I was really surprised about that. But I think the dogs off leash is really important issue to deal with. I walk that trail fairly often, and now the word is out that you don't need to have your dog on a leash. And, people have been really good about having their dogs on leashes in Crippen Park. They've learned to do that. And you get some people who don't, but, that's life. I was walking besides the birds, and that's major. Like, I really think that sign is very relevant, really easy to do, and understandable for people. Like, there's a reason to have your dog on a leash. But the second is, I was walking with a friend who had been attacked by a dog many years ago. She's in her late 70s. And this dog came around. This woman had 3 dogs off leash. One dog came around the corner. She stopped. We all stopped because it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a happy dog. That dog fortunately picked me, and it jumped up to my eye level and barked into my eyes. If it had, meanwhile, the woman who was terrified of dogs and had been badly bitten a number of years ago, if it had attacked her, she would have screamed, jumped up and down, reacted wrong. She would have been hurt seriously. So, you know, besides the birds and all of that, I think we're making a mistake by creating that trail as an off-leash trail. This isn't rocket science. People are used to it. And I just think we're missing a huge opportunity to let it slide like this. Because once it's out there, it's really hard to get back. And to wait for the official plan on how the lake is to be treated, I don't think we can afford to do that right now. And this is a really easy thing to do right now. There you go. So I'm appealing to, like, I don't know who, like who can just put up a little sign, you know, even the bird's nesting, or even let's just make it an off-leash trail. That's all.
Yeah.
And I like dogs.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
So Kathy, just to be clear, the last thing you said was make it an off-leash trail. I think you meant to say make it an on-leash trail.
An on-leash, yeah, right. An on-leash trail, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And I realize everyone is like totally swamped. I'm listening to you guys and you're dealing with things at such a high level. It would be really nice not to make this a big deal. Just like do it, be done, move on. Everyone's got too much on their plate right now.
I asked Carla about, is this something that could be easily done?
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt, Will. Just to be super clear about process, thank you so much, Catherine, but we don't need to answer. This is for Catherine to be a delegation and form. Yeah. We can ask for questions, but there's no required response.
We get a few delegations that.
Yeah, I should have been more educational about that prior to the meeting.
Okay.
So there you go. That's my story.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And see you guys. And thank you very much. I love what you're tackling.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Kathy.
All right.
So Will, you can decide if you want to put that on a future agenda or as a lead item.
Okay.
Yeah.
McKeely, you want to?
If we look at this, I would also like to put forward that Headwaters Park be included in that, and Quarry Park as well. Headwaters has suffered some bank erosion from people letting their dogs run from the trail and launch into swimming. And Quarry Park has some evidence of that happening as well. And both of those wetlands actually have red-legged frogs in them, which is a federally listed species. So if we're going to do education about people having or keeping their dogs on leash, and none of those areas are off leash areas, but people are just letting their dogs run off, I would like to include all 3 wetlands in that.
Okay, so it looks like we should put that as an agenda item.
Sure.
For maybe all municipal parks, so that we can look into that. And you know, just a little aside, one of the things a lot of park systems do is they do a sacrifice. They set up an off-leash dog area so that people, when they're told you can't have your dog off leash here, there is a place they can take their dog off leash, so that and that often reduces the number of people that are doing the off leash anyway.
That's Crippen Park.
Yeah, Don?
I think it's a great idea. I don't know that it has to be an agenda item other than if putting the sign up is the easy part. We have no enforcement, and maybe on the sign we could just say, "Take your dog to Cape Roger Curtis." I thought that was funny.
To the park, the campsite.
Okay, Sue Ellen?
Sorry, I had to step away for a moment. I am back with the Robins. I missed some of that, but I do know that we've dogs on beaches bylaw, and to change a bylaw is a long process the public has to be involved in and all that kind of thing. So it might not be straightforward, but I didn't hear what Carla said. I just think I don't know how easy it is for council to put up a sign, but I'm just going to I just remember vaguely some of the things about that dogs on beaches bylaw, and it's challenging. Anyway, I'll just pause.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I go ahead, Will?
go ahead.
I don't have a camera, so you can't see my hand or anything. So just to respond to that, it was really complicated before. So Sue Ellen is right about that in terms of the bylaw. It was like a long process. But because we adopted the use of public spaces bylaw I think that was only last year, there is a part in there that says that we can put up signage to create rules for public spaces. So that's okay to do now.
Okay, and McKaylee.
I would think that a major component of this sign would be more educational. You know, it's not just, dogs on leash. It would be dogs on leash during the nesting season. Birds are nesting here, and the number of clients that I have that don't realize the birds nest on the ground as well as in trees. Yep. And along the shoreline. So even just something along the lines of, the nesting season for ducks and other species that nest on the shore, I think is enough education that it would explain why and make people take ownership of that.
Yeah, that brings up the old triangle of that I learned in parks for years ago, is the 3 E's: education, engineering, and enforcement, and in that order. So making it the signs saying why and that kind of thing is the education. And sometimes engineering is you look at some of those bridges in Quarry Park, not Quarry Park,
Waters?
Headwaters Park are designed so that they're high enough and they have these little stringers across, white strings, wires that deter dogs from jumping off into the wetland. Mm-hmm. And then enforcement is the last thing you do, and it's the hardest, but we might be able to look into options of that too. So
I think we should plant a bunch of Devil's Club all along the area where the dogs are launching in.
Natural engineering.
Yeah, that's bioengineering. That's even better.
Bioengineering.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should have that as a item for the agenda. We can discuss it in more detail and maybe make some recommendations to council. And who knows, we might have to strike another subcommittee, but we'll look into that.
I think the signs would be very similar to the ones that we had for the black oyster catches in Tunstall Bay. Apparently those were very effective last year. So something along those lines, just more specific to birds that nest around lakes. Yep.
Okay. So we have done our work plan. And now subcommittee, the grant subcommittee report. So that's Carla.
Thanks, Will. I was gonna ask, did anyone else on the subcommittee want to speak to this or? No. Rebecca? No?
No, I'm happy for you to speak to it.
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
We can chime in maybe.
So this is the penguins on the ice floe, and you're the first penguin getting pushed off to see if there's a leopard seal underneath.
Thanks, Will. Okay, so the Sustainable Community Grant Subcommittee, we met at least about a month ago, I think now, and we only had the 2 applications. And so we thought that both of them were quite worthy of receiving a grant. We had $4,000 to give, and one of the applications was for an abattoir. Eric Miller is what is the farm called? The Bowen Cider House and the Meadowbrook, yeah, thank you. So he works with Meadowbrook, and he is planning on setting up an abattoir just in a sea can. And so the abattoir is basically, it's for them to use and for local producers of, chickens and pigs, so that they can slaughter meat on the island, which is something that they can't do currently. They would have to go all the way out to, I think, the Fraser Valley, and it's just not really sustainable. So that was one of them. And then we had the Thrive application, which was for, it was a follow-up. We've already given them a grant for their other project. And so this is, that project was a study on different, let's see, what was it a study on? It was about looking at all the different agricultural land on the island and how that could be used to produce food for the island. And they tried to look at all these different ways of doing that. So they were looking at technology and making the most of the land. And so they want to do this app that's going to allow people to, it's basically a kind of a communication thing where growers can say, okay, we have this much, and people can say, I need this much. It's about a supply and demand, trying to figure out what the supply is and what the demand is, basically. So we thought both of those applications were worthy, and so we just said, let's split the grant money between them and offer them $2,000 each. Did anyone have any comments or questions about?
Yeah, the only question I have is, I think for the
Abattoir?
no, the other one.
The app.
Yeah, is can they do it with the amount of money that we can give them? They basically said, we want at least $4,000 from you, and that we kind of have other money maybe coming in. Can they do it?
Well, I think that they're pretty good fundraisers. They did all of that fundraising for the last project. And I remember that this even came up when we were giving them the grant money the last time, because we said, well, we're not giving them very much, and are they going to be able to fundraise the whole thing? So I think we actually withheld the money until we knew the project was a go. So we could certainly do that again.
Don?
And their board or supporters have been there from the beginning, and it's a pretty impressive list of supporters. If I was going to draw I think I don't see a lot of local producers supporting Thrive, but I think that's another discussion for another time. But it's something to consider. But I don't think it should take away from the work or the initiative that they're trying to find, because I think it's quite interesting. I think, you know, I am frankly more concerned about the abattoir, and I think council's going to get some pushback on that. And, you know, and it's kind of like, it's one of those things, as long as it's not my neighborhood, I think it's a great idea. But if you're going to start slaughtering pigs, cows, and whatever else next door, I might take issue with it, and I think it's probably going to come back to council at some point. Maybe not, but you know, again, I think it's a great idea. The regulations have changed. They allow small units like this to flourish in smaller communities again. And we should probably have one, but is this the best location for it? I can't answer that.
I think as part of our discussion though, is that the land is already zoned for this purpose. So there's nothing that needs to be done by council in that regard. Is that correct, Carla? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's ALR land, so he has a right to open the abattoir regardless of whether or not we support it.
Yeah.
And I think he's planning on doing it. Regardless.
I defer to council.
Well, I do wonder, oh, I'm sorry, Glenn, you had your hand up before I started talking.
No, go ahead. Yeah. No, I was just the only one, that aspect of that application, and again, it just comes down to rules and regulations, that kind of caught my attention, as I think the document that he sent in talked about composting on site, the entrails. That caught me a little off guard as to whether that would be allowable. So that was the only item that kind of was a bit surprising to me, whether that's permitted and the potential problems associated with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually don't recall reading that part. I thought that he, but yeah, I believe that he should be able to do that because it's ALR. That's a guess from me.
Could be. Okay.
But I can definitely look into that a little bit more.
Just a naive question on my part.
Yeah, that was in the back of my mind there too, Glenn. Thank you. And
one thing he did say when I asked him about you know, the entrails, he said that so much of the animal is used that there's very, very little left. Like there's not there isn't a lot of waste from the actual process. And they do have a limit on how much they can process, like per year, I think. So there's that too. So I don't think he would end up with a big compost facility behind Meadowbrook Farm.
okay, Jeff, and then Dawn.
Well, I do wonder if we need to separate our support as a concept versus our, you know, not necessarily support for every nuance of the application or the business. Like, is that useful? You know, I personally like the concept of it, and I think it could be a useful addition to the island. There are some issues that others have brought up that could be cause for further discussion or consideration, but
Can it be conditional funding then?
or even just being clear on what we're supporting. We're supporting the potential pursuit of this business or the exploration by this person, rather than every aspect of its operation. I hope I'm being clear enough that, like, there maybe there's different aspects or different levels that we may be supporting with this funding. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. I think that's an interesting thing to think about. And Dawn, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going. No, I mean, I think we brought up some of the hiccups with both proposals. I don't think they're large enough to get bogged down in the minutia. It's a small amount of money, split equally, and you know, I wish them both luck.
And Rebecca?
Just to Jeff's point, we had a similar discussion in the subcommittee. I had some questions about the demand for something like this, like how viable it was likely to be. That wasn't really clear to me from the application, but then I think to Carla's point, it sounds like he's going ahead and doing this, even if it was primarily for his own use. And so, because originally we had talked, I think I had said, would there be some way to fund more of a needs assessment or something to see if this is something that's actually viable on the island? But after Carla talked to Eric some more, it sounds like the project is going ahead. So I'm just thinking practically kind of how to address what you've raised, Jeff, about supporting the concept, but not necessarily every aspect of the project. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, because it doesn't sound like it's phased in a way that would be easy to do that.
So we're only paying for the building, we're not paying for the utensils. Or
I'm not sure.
We'll buy the gun, but not the bullets. I mean, I don't know how.
I mean, we could take it away and try to figure out kind of a way to do that. But if I'm recalling correctly, Carla, it wasn't presented in a way that would make that particularly easy.
No, I don't think it. Sorry, I'm not totally sure what we want to do with this. I think that it's a pretty small project. You know, we're looking at putting like running water into a sea can and probably like, you know, a table and some knives kind of thing. So I think that, you know, it's like a $4,000 total project. He's just doing a lot of education for himself otherwise. So I don't know what aspects we could support and not support. You know, it's
so there's no regulatory hurdles he has to still go through to make this happen?
No, I think that so forgive me, Glenn, because it's been a while since I spoke with him, but and I don't remember all of the details, but it's fairly simple. As long as you complete all of the training, then you are allowed to do that on ALR land. And all that needs to get done afterwards, because I did have a lot of questions about that as well. I was concerned. I thought that there would be a lot of regulatory hurdles. But on ALR land, it is fairly simple. There's a special license, and they put that in because of COVID, because I think that it was, you know, difficult for people to get to different places. And so once he's done all this training and set it up, then someone comes out to inspect the facility, and that would be the only hurdle that he has to go through.
Yeah. Then I agree. I mean, that the funding, I mean, the most important thing is it viable? And it sounds like it's viable. Whether or not it becomes a successful business is really beyond what we have any control over.
So I've got Sue Ellen, Steph, and Dawn.
Thank you. I like the idea of leaving it up to council. They will probably have all this same discussion again, which is fair. And I also think it would be good for us to make the recommendation to council. I encourage the group to do that, because I gathered, and maybe, I mean, I've done a lot of things since we had our subcommittee meeting too, and I've forgotten, but besides the fact that it might encourage other producers to grow up chickens, for example, for sale, or turkeys for sale at Thanksgiving, there's still time. If we move on it now, if we make the recommendation now, there's also an animal welfare side to it, that the animals don't have to get trucked all the way down the valley in the hot weather and that kind of thing. So I think we can leave it up to staff and council to find the good things they want to say about it. and if the committee wants to make that recommendation. That's just my suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. And Steph,
Rather than have a, like, we agree with this, don't agree with this, belabored, maybe just a brief qualifying statement such as $2,000 to Thrive for the supply and demand analysis app to encourage local food production and consumption, $2,000 to Meadowbrook for an abattoir to verb animal welfare and prevent greenhouse gases, or something like that.
And encourage local food production.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, so whatever your words are, but just instead of being like, we disagree with this, but we do like this, and maybe just a brief qualifying statement is my suggestion.
I really like that, Steph. And
Yeah, I'll share screen if that's okay. Then you guys give the words, though. Those are just examples. Are you
Just
seeing
what-
it?
While Steph is doing that, I was just wondering, well, if I could suggest, well, we were dealing with the Thrive Bowen proposal. This is part of a much larger food resiliency project. They're likely to come back to us again. It would be great to invite them to demo this app, I think, when the time is right. I know we, as a subcommittee, we had a lot of questions just trying to wrap our heads around exactly how it was going to work. But it sounds really interesting, and it would be great to see it once they're a little further along.
I think that's a brilliant idea because I, as I was reading the application, I was racking my brains to figure out how it would work. So I think that would be a great idea. Oh,
I'll put an action item then to invite him.
Yep.
Okay.
And I see Glenn, Jeff, and Dawn.
Yeah, I'm just, as you type there, Steph, I'm wondering if we don't need all that detail. Maybe a more succinct statement is just to promote local food production or farms table food production.
Yeah, perfect.
That was my comment too. That
Okay.
we could spend a lot of time wordsmithing that, and both of them are related to local food production.
Oh, for both. Okay.
Yep, I like it.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah, keep it simple.
You guys are so good at coming to a landing. Okay.
We circle for a while though.
No, it's good though. It's like here, and then.
That's a thing of beauty.
Okay, yeah.
Can I say one thing?
Uh-oh.
And that is, this is not a new idea. I mean, this used to be done on the island. Peter Frinton and I think others used to do this until the big packing houses in Alberta took it all away.
Yep.
And it's now coming back. And for me, although I think there are some issues, you know, especially if he was my neighbor, but it's definitely an old-fashioned idea, and it's a good one.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, I used to walk by Peter's sheep regularly, and had no problem with them.
yeah. So,
Yep.
anyways, there we go.
Well done, everyone. Oh, Sue Ellen, were you saying something?
Did we vote?
But Carla's got her hand up.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you could see my hand or not.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see the hand.
Okay. I just wanted to say that, Steph, on what you were writing there, it would be Eric Miller that applied for the grant.
Okay.
Not Meadowbrook Farm.
Sorry. Okay.
So we've got that, those words that are a thing of beauty. Do I have a motion that we adopt those words? Glenn, second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Okay. Subcommittees, you've done that?
I think this is Sue Ellen. The forest practices referral fell off, so I emailed it to people. It'll go on the revised. My apologies.
Yeah, and I'll speak to these, happy to.
Thank you.
This is in Steph's email. You'll find the actual letter. It's just a letter from a citizen concerned about logging on Bowen and healthy forests. And the LNG link is there. That's another letter from a group on Bowen that Anton's written the letter for Concerned Citizens Bowen. And it's about people concerned about the wood fiber LNG. And then the 7.3 is the existing shorelines condition report. That's Trans Mountain Pipeline asking for community input. And I had asked that council refer these to this committee. What I should have said is refer this to these committee for information. Because basically I just wanted to make sure that the committee was aware that these kinds of letters and concerns were out there in the community, and that these kinds of options for action have been taken. And if the committee's interested, I can put together more information about the different letters and what council has done on these kinds of issues, logging, LNG, and Trans Mountain Pipeline, and also to let you know that these kinds of referrals sometimes do come, or these kinds of letters and industry requests for input do come to council. And is this something that this committee wants to be involved in, or not? I don't know whether. I haven't gone through all the past minutes, and I don't think that's really relevant. It's kind of like, these are some things that happen at municipal council, and are they, I'm bringing them to you for your information, and anybody wants to know more about them or get more involved in them, let me know. The Trans Mountain Pipeline one, 7.3, it's a very tight area. There's only like 5 areas that they recommend. And the one for English Bay is a little tight piece of shoreline way over there, 5 kilometers away. I'm only bringing that to this committee because when there was a spill recently in English Bay, the oil came all the way to Point Atkinson. So we were within a few kilometers of our beaches. And Bonnie at the time was getting phone calls from concerned citizens on Bowen going, okay, I'm going to go down to the beach. What do I need to take? What kind of a bucket do and I guess I should wear my rubber boots. And Bonnie's going, wait, don't do it. That stuff is toxic. You can track it back into your house. It's dangerous. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of information about some of these issues. There's another Trans Mountain Pipeline one coming, I think. And I throw it back to the group. 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. Is this information that you would like to see when they come to council, or that you would like council to refer to this group? Or what's been happening up till now is I and other members of council look at them and talk about them, but it seems like it might be information that you might want to be aware of or involved in. Oh, back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Sue Ellen. I think I'm going to ask each person what they think, and I'll start with McKaylee.
Uh-oh.
I would be interested in seeing them. I have personal opinions about these things, and I'm not sure that they would get in the way. But I certainly would be interested in taking a look at it. If I mean, obviously it's within the purview of this group, but yeah.
Okay, thanks, McKaylee. Rebecca.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate seeing them, and I like your suggestion, Sue Ellen, that if we have a particular interest in them, that we can ask for more information.
And Glenn?
Yep, no, I agree. I think it would be inappropriate for you to say, no, don't send me any of this. We can be discerning once we see it.
Okay. And Jeff?
I really appreciate when those things come across council's desk for them to be referred to us for information. You already pointed out, Sue Ellen, that you had meant them to be, referred to our committee for information. And I really enjoyed going through these, and I thought they were quite interesting of course, I didn't read every word, my gosh. But I wasn't sure whether there was going to be an action coming out of it. But yeah, knowing whether these are for information up front or whether there's some item that we might be, put for discussion or consideration, putting that in context too, that's helpful. But yeah, please continue.
Okay, and I do apologize for not being more clear. I just wanted, council has expressed an interest in having more engagement with its committees, and inviting more input, inviting more creative solutions, and so I just thought, well, let's at least make sure that, and I'm happy to bring them, and then if they're in an information part of the agenda, people can pull them out and say, I really think this council, back at the part of the meeting where it's approval of the agenda, people can say, I would like to pull, 18B, so for discussion, and because I have a motion to propose or something like that. And then it's kind of up to the committee, unless council is asking for specific recommendations from you. I'll just keep doing that then. And anybody else?
Well, we've got Don left to see what he has to say.
I'm definitely in favor, and I appreciate the opportunity to look at the material, and I do think there's a need for us to offer a comment in some cases. And I'm going to point to John Saunders and Allison Moore, who voted against our.
Excuse me, can I just ask that comments about elected representatives who this committee is volunteering for, that they be a little less personalized?
Well, I'm not quite sure how to do that, but I can work on it. My comment is not a criticism. It's just that I think we play an important role in providing council with information, and in some cases where we've not had that opportunity, council has made a different decision that we might have recommended. And I think it's important work for us to do.
Very good. Okay. Well, I'll keep referring things, and we'll see whether council supports me in they may ask for specific recommendations, of course, as they often have before as well.
Okay. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, I see both staff have things to say too. I don't want to overload them, so I'm keen to hear.
Okay, so I'll just go left to right. So it's Steph and then Carla.
Thank you, Councillor, for clarifying about, I've actually talked to the corporate officer about being more clear about committee referrals. Is it for information? Is it for comment? I do believe the third one, the shorelines, does ask for comment, but Carla will know. Carla.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're right. I actually didn't notice that stuff. That's great. I was just gonna say something about engagement exhaustion is kind of a real thing these days. The province especially likes to send us lots of plans to get engaged with, and they want to do full day workshops with us so that we can give our feedback and that kind of thing. And sometimes, like within a month, you can get like 5 different requests, and then you have all these letters, and then we want to write a letter back to them. And some of them, I'm not saying that that's never a good idea or anything, but I do want to offer that this one for Trans Mountain, that recently we've kind of realized that we have the Islands Trust to advocate on our behalf. So staff might not have time to write letters for all of these. Trans Mountain, I've gotten 3 or 4 different reports this year so far on that they were asking for feedback on, that you had a time that you could comment on them. And so I think that that's a really great idea, is just to keep asking for Islands Trust support so that staff doesn't spend all their time writing letters. And that if we have it here in this committee, that we can take any comments and we can give those to the Islands Trust as well to be included in whatever letter they're writing. They also sometimes actually contract out the letter writing for some of these areas that take a really specific expertise to make valid comments on, which is great.
Thanks, Carla. Sue Ellen?
Yeah, thank you. I'm an Islands trustee as well, so I can also include Islands Trust letters as I see them. They often have, they don't always have the local flavor for Bowen, but they're thinking about the trust area island-wide, or sorry, trust area-wide, which is a big area. So I've written down and Islands Trust letters too. So I'll just send them for information. Staff can put them in there. And then if there's something that people think is important for Bowen to comment on, or I can always pull them too, I guess, if or council can ask for something specific. But mostly I wanted to bring you to your attention the kinds of environmental advocacy that council and input that council gets involved in, just and we can see how it goes. But I'll send them to this committee. I'll try and get more referred for information. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue Ellen.
So I will be needing to do a full, close the loop on this from my workflow. So can I don't know if I'm hearing you right, please say if this is wrong. Just that that you receive it for information and defer to the Islands Trust. Is that too literal or wrong?
This is for 7.3, which
7.3.
Yeah.
Are we deferring it or sharing it?
Honestly, this one, having looked at it again, I'm sorry that I put that words in.
Just
and
information then. Okay.
I just yeah. And because the area is so tight, when I looked at it again, I went, well, it's going to be hard we're going to have to do a ton of work before we could find useful ways to comment on what for them are routine questions that they ask everybody. And I didn't give enough direction for us to be able to do something at this meeting regarding 7.3 that would meet the timeline anyway. Would you say that's true, Carla?
I don't recall what the timeline was for this one.
It doesn't matter.
We're already coordinating with Islands Trust on a response. And if there are any comments, I'd be happy to pass them along.
Did anybody have a comment that they would want to speak now, and Carla can pass it along to the Islands Trust? No. Back to you, Chair.
Okay. So the other thing I guess that in general is that we're happy to receive information and correspondence related to environment and climate change that council is receiving, and for information and in some cases for comment. But
if we can help staff, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move that motion that's up there on the screen.
Okay. Second. Jeff seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry, we just got our wrists slapped about action tracking.
Okay.
I can't leave these hanging.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, updates, staff update from Carla.
Sure. What am I don't have a lot to update on. I've been working on the compost facility project a lot in the last couple of weeks. And one thing I was going to tell you about was that students from Capilano are coming over next week, and they're coming over with some ambassadors from the biosphere. And they're going to help us with some invasive species removal on Pebbly Beach. So that's kind of an exciting project. We are I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you about that. We're working with the Conservancy on something very exciting. I don't know if Will could speak to it because I don't want to spill the beans if I'm not supposed to. And then what else did I want to tell you about? That is maybe it for me for now. Oh, I want to talk about Snug Cove Beach. We've started our beach water testing again this season, and Snug Cove Beach, we've made the decision to just make that not a recommended swimming beach anymore. I don't feel that many people swam in it anyways, but we're going to stop testing it. I think it's just not a nice thing to look at, all of those super high E. coli counts all the time. So, and it's basically closed all summer every year anyways. So we're still doing a test, one test just as to keep collecting the data, but we're not advertising that anymore. And it's just kind of permanently not closed, but not recommended for swimming. So there's new signs up for that. And what did I want to say about that? That's and that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Carla. Council updates, coastal flooding electoral area A, Sue Ellen.
Yes, I don't know. This is something that went around by email. You know what? We don't even have to deal with it right now if we don't want to. But this is work that Metro Vancouver has been doing about sea level rise. That's what coastal flooding means. And so I think I sent around a link a while ago about a geohazard report. And to keep it simple here, let me see, 8.2, where's my notes? What they're projecting from this preliminary report with tons of maps in it that you can look at and includes a section of Bowen Island shoreline is looking at an estimated 4 meters sea level rise by 2100, however we'll be saying that at that time, and 8 meters by 2200 the year. And so I just wanted to flag that with people because there's a perception that Bowen is steep and it probably wouldn't matter, but the one level of sea level rise, and then you add a king tide, and then you add a storm and winds, and then you add landscape risk, and then you add the debris that's riding above the waves. So this is something we've been seeing through the Howe Sound Community Forum. They have been seeing things like unmoored vessels crashing into the shore, being rubbed up and down against the rocks, docks that become unmoored or that are out there floating because somebody has unmoored them, and even things in I don't know if it was this winter or the winter before, but propane tanks, big ones, you know, those big long ones, riding on the waves and showing up on the shore, different places. So 1 meter sea level rise doesn't sound like much, but when you start adding in these other bits. So I had sent this around April 17th, if people want to refer to it. And it's a preliminary report. I think this is phase 1, so I think they're going to be doing more work on it. And I will, when I find that and see it, I will bring it forward again. But this is just to let you know some of the work that is in the works out there. Electoral Area A is our direct neighbor. So that's Boyer Island and Passage Island out there. And one of the maps, map 103, drawing 103, shows a part of the shoreline on Bowen, and you can zoom in and see the kinds of places that might be at risk. So that's all. It was just sort of to introduce you to some of the climate planning that's happening in the region, and so that we can take advantage of it as we see it. And I'd encourage anybody, when you see reports like this, to shoot them to Will and see if he wants to put them on the agenda.
Sue Ellen, do you know if Metro Vancouver plans to do such a study for Bowen Island?
No, because Bowen does its own planning. Well, we're just not part of the Metro Vancouver planning function. Yeah. We're through Islands Trust, though. So Islands Trust is doing, for example, not really a drought analysis, but not reservoirs. What are those? The water bearing
Aquifer.
Beg your pardon?
Aquifer?
Yes, thank you. They're doing an aquifer inventory and some of that kind of work island wide. They've done it already for the drier islands, Hornby and Denman. I've seen Denman's slides from it, and it's really detailed and different from any of the work I've seen for Bowen yet. Staff may have seen that kind of work. They may have that kind of work, but there'll be a seminar, a webinar happening in the fall from Islands Trust. So the people who are doing the aquifer inventory is Islands Trust. I'm seeing the note from staff, and a webinar in the fall. They're doing a whole freshwater strategy for the Islands Trust area, and Bowen's included in that. So.
Okay, thanks, Sue Ellen. Just a little addition about the sea level rise. The U.S. NOAA agency, I forget what it stands for, Natural Atmosphere and blah, 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 Administration. They have done a global sea level rise map that does different years. So I found that interactive map and looked at Bowen, and the 2100 map is a little scary for Snug Cove. So I think that's one of the things I think we should be looking at in our adaptation is sea level rise and looking at those predictions. So
for sure. It's a perfect example of one of the things that I'm talking about. So yes.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's a thank you, Sue Ellen, who's stepped out. New business, energy step code, verbal report from Carla.
Thank you. Well, Sue Ellen's update actually kind of just jogged my memory that that I was also going to give you an update on because she was talking about marine debris, and there's actually a group who's applying for some grant funding. There's some money coming from the province and from the federal government for cleaning up marine debris and derelict boats, and so they are applying for that funding, and they are going to do all of the work. And what they're going to use is the marine debris tracker that was made by the Marine Stewardship Initiative. So I know I've said it in these meetings before, but please make sure to report any marine debris that you see on the app. Because yeah, then things like this happen, and that's how they get cleaned up. A lot of them are really, it's the things that are remote on the side of the island that you can't reach by with any vehicle, or that's the kind of stuff that we need to know about. Okay. Oh, and I have also forgot that we started the monitoring for European green crab.
Okay, great.
If you can find any.
Michaela, you've got your hand up?
I just wanted to ask if one of the things that's included in the marine debris is the lead fishing weights, or the lead weights for boats. There was a bunch of lead that was dropped at Seymour Bay about a year ago, and I had called DFO, contacted them and asked them to come pick it up because of the toxic nature of that and it being exposed to the marine environment. But I just wanted to see if that's something that this is being taken care of through this app as well.
They're busy to have the lines.
I think it certainly can be. I think you can report anything on it. Yeah. And I think then, depending on the project, they would decide then if it's something that they could take or not. But I suspect for this project, it'll be something like, a big barge coming around, and maybe like, they would have a little runabout doing trips to the sides of the islands and that kind of thing. Okay, sorry that I went off on back to the update instead of talking about the step code.
That's useful.
Okay, so energy step code. So staff has identified stepping up. So just to give I guess a little bit of background, everyone's probably familiar with step code? Are we mostly familiar with step code?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little
Is
bit.
Rebecca?
No. So a step code is wow, it's not my area of expertise, obviously, but it's basically it's about mostly building envelope and making the building envelope much tighter so that your heating is much more efficient. And what else do they do?
Part of the building code?
It's part of the building code. So basically, municipalities can sign on to step code, and when they do that, you can sign in. You can do it incrementally. So we did step 1 in 2018, I want to say, and then we went up to step 3 in 2020, I think. And so what that does is it just it puts certain requirements on new builds to make them more energy efficient. Yeah, that's the nuts and bolts. So we are at step 3 currently, and staff has identified moving up to step 4 in January 2026 as the next step, and then step 5 in 2030. And it seems like it might be premature to bring this up now in 2023, but it takes a long time to change the building bylaw. And this would be kind of, I think what we're going to do. I've been talking to the building inspector, and we haven't really gotten into it very much yet, but we're just trying to look at what other communities are doing. And I think that we're quite far ahead of a lot of communities, but we're behind other ones. So like West Van and North Van, for example, are already at step 5 for residential builds, but you can go down to step 3 if you have a certain energy efficiency in your heating system. So that's just one example. What we're thinking is that we would like to, what we're going to do is probably write a report to just introduce it to council and say, would you like us to start working on this? And then we'll delve into it a little deeper and probably present them with a work plan. And yeah, what I was saying before about why it takes so long is it's not just changing the bylaw. So if we introduce it this year, then we can change the bylaw over the year. but we also need to provide lots of builder education. I think this step is quite a bit more complicated or more difficult to achieve than step 1 and step 3. So I don't think that we need a recommendation to council at this time, because I think that we will just write a report to introduce it, but I just wanted to introduce it to the committee as well, because it's a climate action.
Just to make sure everybody saw it, Glenn put a link to the step code in the chat. So thank you.
Yeah, it's just a basic document, but it'll just help answer maybe Rebecca's question.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Carla.
No,
So I think we're pretty well done. We've got question period with the crowd of people in the audience, you know, wanting to discuss our agenda, and so I think they've all left, and so next meeting will be determined through our usual methods, and so adjournment. Now, I always have to ask, do we have to ask for a motion? No, Steph says no. Steph says yay. And
Hang on.
Yeah.
I did want to ask a question.
Yeah.
I posted a note in chat, and it's just a question, and I don't know that there's any answers, but I see that the BC government is going to override local municipalities in recommending that they increase density to 4 houses per normal household lot. And I'm just curious what our council might do with that, and what kind of impact would that have on our climate plan? Just a question.
I can try and answer that. There's a number of things that the province are doing, including higher taxes for vacant houses. And all of these, because Bowen is in the Islands Trust area, which is under the Provincial Islands Trust Act to preserve and protect the unique amenities is what it's called, and environment of the Islands Trust area. It's uncertain whether those kinds of things, which I gather they're looking at bigger cities first, would ever come to Bowen. If they did, they would probably come to the whole Islands Trust area, and there would be a lot of discussion before that happened. I don't know. However, I have been doing a bunch of research about, can you have lots of nature, resilient, healthy ecosystems and density? And you probably can. People are doing it. The challenge is to do it well. And I don't think we're ready to do that yet. Instead, I think what this council wants to do is, down there at 10.1 in the strategic plan, is revisit our official community plan and update it, or find out what the community has to say about some of these topics. But I'll keep you posted if I hear anything about news from things the province says that might affect Bowen. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
okay, so we're adjourned, and I've got to
Carla,
say, Carla, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry. I know we're just about done here. I was just gonna say that staff is aware of that, the province's thinking on that, and we've been watching to see what's gonna happen. But also, I read in the news today or yesterday that the Minister of Housing has put targets out for North Van and West Van. They've chosen 10 different BC communities that they're doing their targets for them for providing housing. They say they're not providing enough stock. And so maybe that's the first move, is doing that in those bigger cities, and we'll see.
Yeah, I was surprised because I saw a note from the mayor of Coldstream where they had been asked to increase density, which I thought was interesting because it's a pretty tiny community. So, anyways, we'll see where it goes. Thanks, you, Ellen. Thanks, Carla.
Just as a side tangent to that, I have been told by the province at Front Counter BC that they are actually fast tracking residential development. So anything that needs permits under the Water Sustainability Act, if it's flagged as housing, it's getting fast tracked.
Okay, now I think we can adjourn. And Steph, I'm sorry to say I've been usually on time, but we're 15 minutes over. So there we go.
It's a good meeting.
Now, lots discussed. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Carol.
bye all.